Today we uncover the shocking truth about UK supermarket bakery bread. Walk into any British supermarket and you'll see them. Rows of golden loaves sitting in those open bakery counters, the smell of fresh bread drifting through the aisles. They look artisanal, they feel traditional. Some even carry names that sound like they've been baking since Queen Victoria's reign. But here's what most shoppers don't know. That bread sitting unwrapped on the bakery counter doesn't legally need an ingredient label. None. Supermarkets can load it with additives, preservatives, and processing chemicals without telling you a single thing unless you specifically hunt down a member of staff and demand the information. Even then, some stores will tell you to phone their customer care line. In 2026, you literally have to call a helpline to find out what's in a loaf of bread. Imagine walking into your local bakery in 1966 and asking the baker what's in his daily bread. He wipes the flour off his hands, looks you dead in the eye and says, "Sorry, pal, I can't tell you that." You're gonna have to call the corporate helpline. We'd think that was insane. But that's the world we're living in right now. But the deception runs deeper. Around 80% of UK bread is made using something called the Chorleywood process. It's a high-speed industrial method that turns flour into a finished loaf in just 2 hours. But here's the question nobody in the food industry wants to answer. Why is an emulsifier linked to heart problems in research being added to bread at all? Especially when traditional bread doesn't need it. The only reason it's there is to make industrial production cheaper and faster. Some of these chemicals don't even have to appear on ingredient lists because they're classified as processing aids. And those lovely scratch bakery supermarkets used to run, they've been shutting them down across the country, replacing them with what campaigners call loaf tanning salons. They take frozen factory-made dough, heat it up in store, and legally call it freshly baked. The Real Bread campaign has been filing complaints with trading standards for years, and they've been winning. Supermarkets have been forced to change their labeling because the claims were misleading. Then there's the sourdough epidemic. Walk down any bakery aisle and you'll find products branded as sourdough that contain commercial yeast, vinegar for fake tanginess, and the same industrial additives as regular bread. Real sourdough takes a full day of fermentation with nothing but flour, water, salt, and a live starter culture. What you're buying is what insiders call sour faux. Fake sourdough with none of the digestive benefits and all of the shortcuts. Some of these loaves contain ingredients that'll genuinely shock you. We're talking about chemicals used in drain cleaners, flour treatment agents traditionally made from boiled animal hair and feathers, emulsifiers linked in research studies to heart problems, all sitting in bread that's marketed to you as freshly baked, artisanal, and wholesome. So we've gone through the major products currently sold in UK supermarkets and will expose the 10 bakery bread products you need to avoid. Then I'll tell you the 6 which are actually still worth buying. But here's the thing. This video only works if it reaches people. Right now, the food industry has spent decades and billions convincing the British public that this industrial bread is normal, that it's safe, that it's even traditional. Every single view, every like, and especially every time you hit that hype button, you're pushing back against that narrative. You're helping spread awareness that forces these corporations to face questions they've been dodging for decades. The algorithm rewards engagement, and when videos like this trend, supermarkets take notice. Journalists take notice. Regulators take notice. So, if you want to see real change in food standards, if you want transparency in labeling, if you're tired of being sold a story while the ingredients tell a completely different tale, then smash that hype button right now. Share this with your family group chat. Make some noise. Because the only way we protect our plates is by refusing to stay silent while they keep selling us this stuff. Number 10. Morrison's in-store fresh-baked bread. This is where we need to talk about what fresh-baked actually means in supermarket language. When you walk past a Morrison's in-store bakery and smell that fresh bread aroma, you'd naturally assume they're baking bread from scratch, mixing flour, kneading dough, the whole process. But that's not what's happening in most stores. The Real Bread campaign has a term for these operations: loaf tanning salons. What actually happens is this: frozen dough is shipped in from a central factory. The dough has already been made, shaped, and frozen. The in-store bakery takes that frozen dough, thaws it, and browns it in an oven. That's it. They're essentially reheating factory-made products. But because the final baking step happens in store, they can legally call it freshly baked. The smell you're experiencing, that's designed to pull you in. It's theatre. It's marketing. That bread smell pumping through the store isn't even accidental. Supermarkets know exactly what they're doing. The smell of baking bread triggers deep psychological responses. It makes us feel nostalgic. It makes us hungry. It makes us think of home and comfort and quality. Some stores have even installed systems that amplify and distribute the baking smell throughout the shop, specifically to influence customer behavior. Studies have shown that the smell of fresh bread makes shoppers spend more money overall, not just on bread. It puts you in a positive emotional state that makes you more likely to make impulse purchases. The entire in-store bakery setup is designed as a sensory marketing tool. The smell, the warm lighting, the open displays where you can see the golden crusts. It's all theatre designed to make you associate the store with freshness and quality, while the actual product is factory-made frozen dough being reheated. And it works because our brains associate that smell with quality and freshness. But the bread itself was made in an industrial facility using all the same processes and additives as packaged bread. The only difference is they've delayed the final browning step until you're in the store. It's a psychological trick wrapped in a legal loophole. Number 9. Tesco White Bloomer from their in-store bakery. Here's something that'll make you do a double take when you read the ingredient list. This bread contains sodium hydroxide. You might know it better as caustic soda. It's the same chemical used in industrial drain cleaners. Now, it's used here as an acidity regulator, and yes, it's legal. But ask yourself this: why does freshly baked bakery bread need an acidity regulator at all? Traditional bread is flour, water, salt, and yeast. That's it. But Tesco's White Bloomer comes with a whole industrial toolkit: emulsifiers to keep it artificially soft for days, preservatives to extend shelf life, palm oil tucked into the ingredient list. These emulsifiers and preservatives create what the industry calls the soft for days formula. Real bread goes stale within a day or two because that's what actual bread does. But industrial bread stays artificially soft for nearly a week because it's loaded with chemicals designed to prevent the natural staling process. You're not buying fresh bread. You're buying a product engineered to defy nature. When you see sodium hydroxide listed, it tells you everything about how far removed this product is from what your grandmother would recognize as bread. The chemicals are there to solve problems created by industrial production. Speed up the process, keep it soft longer, make it shelf-stable. This isn't bakery bread. It's a chemistry experiment wrapped in the theatre of fresh baking. Number 8. Aldi in-store bakery sourdough. Let's talk about the sourdough con that's swept British supermarkets. Real sourdough is made with just 4 ingredients: flour, water, salt, and a live sourdough starter culture that ferments the dough over at least 24 hours. The fermentation breaks down gluten, creates beneficial acids, and gives real sourdough its distinctive flavor and digestive benefits. People buy sourdough specifically because they've heard it's better for them. They've read about the gut health benefits, the easier digestibility, the lower glycemic index compared to regular bread. Some people with mild gluten sensitivity can tolerate real sourdough when they can't handle regular bread because the long fermentation breaks down the problematic proteins. That's not marketing hype. That's actual biochemistry happening during proper fermentation. Aldi's sourdough contains commercial yeast. That's an immediate red flag. If it's got added yeast, it's not real sourdough. The yeast is there to speed up the process. What takes 24 hours naturally can be done in 2 hours with commercial yeast. They'll often add vinegar or acetic acid to fake that tangy sourdough flavor. Some products even use something called sourdough flavoring powder. It's a completely manufactured taste. You're paying premium prices for a product that gives you none of the health benefits of real sourdough and all the shortcuts of industrial bread. People are buying this thinking they're making a healthier choice for their families, possibly spending an extra £1 or £2 per loaf. And they're getting absolutely nothing for that investment except clever marketing. The worst part? Because there's no legal definition of sourdough in the UK, this is technically allowed. Campaigners have nicknamed these products sourfo, fake sourdough that trades on the health halo and artisan image while delivering none of the substance. Number 7. Tesco H.W. Neville bread from their in-store bakery range. This one's an actual scandal when you dig into the story. H.W. Neville was a real bakery that operated way back in 1872. It died out decades ago. Then Tesco resurrected the name, slapped it on their industrial bread, and marketed it like it's some heritage artisan product. The packaging plays up the historical angle. It's meant to make you think you're buying something traditional, something with provenance, something that's been made the same way for over 100 years. But here's the problem. The original H.W. Neville couldn't possibly have used the Chorleywood process because it wasn't invented until 1961. That's almost 90 years after the bakery was founded. The Chorleywood process was developed at the British Baking Industries Research Association in Chorleywood, Hertfordshire. It revolutionized bread production by replacing traditional fermentation with high-speed mechanical mixing. The dough gets pummeled at intense speeds, while oxidizing agents are added to develop gluten structure quickly. What normally takes 12 to 24 hours through natural fermentation now takes 2 hours. It's cheaper, faster, and can use lower quality flour because the aggressive mechanical process compensates for poor ingredients. About 80% of UK bread is made this way. It's why British bread has a reputation for being soft, bland, and forgettable compared to bread in France, Italy, or Germany, where traditional methods are still common. The process prioritizes speed and profit over flavor and nutrition. The bread you're buying has nothing to do with the original recipes or methods. It's made with the same high-speed industrial mixing, the same emulsifiers, the same preservatives, and the same shortcuts as any other factory loaf. The Real Bread campaign called this out specifically, saying it is definitely not the bread first baked in 1872. Tesco is using a dead bakery's name to trick you into thinking their industrial product has heritage and quality. It's zombie brand marketing. Resurrect a corpse, dress it up, and hope nobody notices the whole thing's a fabrication. Number 6. Co-op in-store fresh-baked bread. Here's why Co-op takes the top spot for worst offender. The Real Bread campaign filed formal complaints with trading standards against multiple supermarkets over misleading freshly baked claims. Co-op was specifically named. These complaints have been successful. Supermarkets have been forced to change their labeling and marketing because the claims were found to be misleading to consumers. Co-op's in-store bread operation is the same loaf tanning salon model we discussed earlier. Frozen factory-made dough gets reheated in-store and sold as freshly baked. But it's the combination of factors that makes this so egregious. They've been officially called out by campaigners and forced to change their practices. They're using the frozen dough model while marketing it as fresh, and like other supermarkets, their loose bakery products don't require full ingredient disclosure at point of sale. Co-op positions itself as the ethical supermarket. They market themselves on values, on community, on doing the right thing. But when it comes to their bakery bread, they've been playing the same deceptive games as every other chain, using legal loopholes, relying on customer ignorance, creating a theatrical bakery experience that has nothing to do with how the bread is actually made. When the supermarket that's supposed to be the ethical alternative gets caught misleading customers about freshly baked claims, it shows just how deep the problem runs across the entire industry. Number 5. Astor, the bakery white farmhouse loaf, available in both 400 and 800 gram sizes. This one's got a trick that really shows how ingredient lists can deceive you. It contains palm oil in 3 separate forms. You'll find rapeseed oil listed, then palm fat, then palm oil. Why split it up? Because when ingredients are listed separately, each one appears lower down the list, making it look like there's less of them than there actually is. Add them all together and palm products are one of the main ingredients. Palm oil production is directly linked to mass deforestation in Southeast Asia. Orangutan populations have been decimated because their rainforest habitats are being cleared to make way for palm plantations. When you buy bread with palm oil, you're funding environmental destruction. But beyond the environmental catastrophe, this loaf also contains sodium stearoyl 2-lactylate, which is an emulsifier. It's got E471, another emulsifier. And it's got calcium propionate, a preservative that's been flagged in studies. Calcium propionate is E282. Research has linked this preservative to irritability in children, attention problems, and potential effects on insulin function. Parents buying this farmhouse loaf, thinking they're making a wholesome choice, have no idea they're feeding their kids a preservative that's been associated with affecting children's behavior. This is marketed as farmhouse bread. The name conjures images of traditional baking, of simplicity, of countryside wholesomeness. The reality is a heavily engineered industrial product with a triple dose of palm and a chemical cocktail designed to keep it soft and extend its shelf life well beyond what real bread could ever manage. Number 4. Waitrose braces white bloomer with added sourdough. This one stings because Waitrose positions itself as the premium supermarket. The place where quality matters. The place where you pay more but get better products. Their whole brand identity is built around being the upmarket choice, the place where middle-class Britain shops when they want something better than the budget chains. So, when you see a product marketed with added sourdough, you'd expect something legitimate. You'd expect Waitrose to have higher standards. Here's what you actually get. The ingredient list shows it contains only 1.8% sourdough, less than 2%. The rest, standard industrial bread formula, complete with emulsifiers and calcium propionate preservative. Real sourdough doesn't need preservatives because the fermentation process itself creates an acidic environment that naturally inhibits mold. The lactic acid produced during proper fermentation is a natural antimicrobial. If your sourdough has added preservatives, it's not real sourdough. It's regular bread with a sourdough marketing angle. Waitrose is charging you premium prices for a product that's barely different from the cheapest supermarket loaf. They've slapped sourdough on the label, added less than 2% of the real thing, kept all the industrial additives, and marked up the price by 30 or 40%. The really frustrating part is that Waitrose shoppers often care deeply about food quality. They're the customers most likely to read labels, most likely to seek out better products, most likely to pay extra for genuine quality, and Waitrose is exploiting that trust. Even at the premium end of the market, you're being sold a story that doesn't match the reality. If Waitrose can't be trusted to deliver genuine sourdough, what does that say about the industry as a whole? Number 3. Sainsbury's Bakery White Bloomer. This one reveals something that most shoppers never think about. Sainsbury's own allergen guidance explicitly tells customers with allergies to avoid all in-store bakery products due to cross-contamination risks from open handling. Think about that. They're telling people with severe allergies that they can't trust these products to be safe. If Sainsbury's own internal assessment is that their in-store bakery operations carry too much contamination risk for allergen sufferers, what does that tell you about the handling standards? Beyond the allergen issue, the ingredient list tells its own story. This bloomer contains added wheat gluten. Real bread doesn't need extra gluten added. When you see added wheat gluten on an ingredient list, it's a signal that corners are being cut somewhere in the process. High-quality flour and proper fermentation naturally develop gluten structure. You don't need to add extra. Manufacturers add wheat gluten when they're using cheaper flour with lower protein content, or when they're rushing the process so much that natural gluten development doesn't have time to occur. It's a patch, a shortcut, a way to engineer the texture they want without doing the work properly. And it often comes from gluten that's been industrially extracted and processed separately before being added back in. Real bread doesn't need gluten added because real bread making develops it naturally through time and technique. The fact that they're simultaneously marketing these products as fresh artisan bread while officially warning vulnerable customers to stay away shows the fundamental contradiction at the heart of supermarket bakery operations. Number 2. Asda, the bakery tiger tin loaf. This is where things get properly disturbing. Tiger bread looks artisan with that distinctive cracked crust pattern. It's meant to look rustic, handmade, special, but check the ingredient list and you'll find L-cysteine. That's E920. Here's what you need to know about L-cysteine. Traditionally, it's been made from boiled human hair or duck feathers or pig bristles. The process involves boiling these materials in concentrated hydrochloric acid to break them down. Now, most major UK supermarkets have confirmed they use synthetic L-cysteine these days rather than the animal or human-derived versions. But the fact that this ingredient exists at all in bread should make you ask questions. L-cysteine is a flour treatment agent. It's used in industrial baking to speed up dough processing by weakening the gluten structure. But here's the irony. Studies have shown that bread made with L-cysteine actually ends up denser and less pleasant in texture. It needs to be combined with oxidizing agents to counteract the negative effects. So why use it? Because it makes high-speed industrial production possible. Traditional bread making develops gluten through slow fermentation and proper kneading. That takes time. L-cysteine lets manufacturers skip that step. But here's something even more disturbing. L-cysteine is listed because it's classified as an ingredient, but there's a whole category of additives called processing aids that manufacturers can use without ever listing them. We're talking about enzymes like phospholipase, fungal alpha amylase, transglutaminase, maltogenic amylase, hemicellulase, and xylanase. These are added to increase dough volume, improve texture, and speed up production. They don't have to appear on the label because they're supposedly deactivated by heat during baking. Supposedly. Research has shown that up to 20% of alpha amylase allergenicity can survive in bread crusts, even after baking. When the Real Bread campaign challenged the Federation of Bakers about this, their director Gordon Paulson said, "We did not reply because we could not stop using them," which they know. They admitted they can't make industrial bread without these hidden processing aids. So even when an ingredient list looks relatively clean, there can be a whole cocktail of enzymes and processing aids that you'll never see listed. This tiger loaf also contains a full toolkit of vegetable oils and fats, including palm, emulsifiers, and raising agents. It looks artisan. It's engineered to appear handmade. The ingredient list reads like a chemistry set. Number 1. Lidl In-Store Bakery Sourdough. Earlier we talked about Aldi's fake sourdough. Lidl's playing a similar game. Their in-store sourdough contains commercial yeast, which means it's not real sourdough. But here's where Lidl takes the deception to another level. Their in-store bakery allergen sign tells customers that for additives and ingredients, they need to contact customer care. It's 2026, and you can't find out what's in a Lidl bakery loaf without phoning a helpline. Let that sink in. Every packaged product in that same store must list ingredients clearly on the label by law. But because these bakery items are sold loose and unwrapped, they slip through a regulatory loophole. Lidl doesn't have to tell you what's in the bread at point of sale. You have to go home, find their customer care number, phone them, and request the information. Most people never do that. They trust the fresh bakery appearance, they trust the sourdough label. They buy it thinking they're making a healthy choice. What they're actually getting is industrial bread with hidden ingredients made using shortcuts that destroy any nutritional benefits real sourdough would provide. Real sourdough fermentation creates an acidic environment in the dough. That acidity is what gives authentic sourdough its distinctive tang, but it also serves a crucial function. The acids produced during fermentation naturally inhibit mold growth. That's why real sourdough doesn't need preservatives. The fermentation process itself acts as a natural preservative. It also breaks down gluten proteins, making real sourdough easier to digest for people with gluten sensitivity. The lactic acid bacteria produced during fermentation can even have prebiotic effects, supporting gut health. When you speed up the process with commercial yeast and skip the proper fermentation, you lose all of these benefits. You get bread that needs artificial preservatives, has none of the digestive benefits, and tastes nothing like real sourdough, despite what the label claims. The fact that Lidl makes it this difficult to access basic ingredient information tells you everything about how much they don't want you looking too closely at what's actually in these products. So, how do you find the actually good stuff? Here's what you need to look for. Real bread has 4 or 5 ingredients maximum: flour, water, salt, yeast or sourdough starter, and maybe a tiny bit of oil. That's it. If you see emulsifiers, preservatives, acidity regulators, or treatment agents, walk away. Your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize half these chemicals as food ingredients, and there's a reason for that. They're industrial additives developed to solve problems created by mass production. Look for the Real Bread Loaf mark. It's a certification from the Real Bread campaign that guarantees the product is made using traditional methods without industrial additives. Not many supermarket products carry it, but the ones that do are legitimate. It's like a seal of approval that the bread has been made properly. Check if sourdough actually lists sourdough culture or fermented flour as an ingredient and doesn't list commercial yeast. If it's got yeast, it's not real sourdough no matter what the label says. Real sourdough relies entirely on wild fermentation from the starter culture. That's what creates the health benefits and authentic flavor. And honestly, be prepared to pay a bit more. Real bread costs more to make because it takes longer, uses better ingredients, and can't rely on cheap industrial shortcuts. A proper sourdough might be £2 or £3 more expensive than industrial bread, but what you're getting is actual food, not a science experiment. You're paying for time, skill, and quality ingredients rather than subsidizing a factory process designed to maximize profit margins. First, M&S only 6 ingredients, white sliced from their bakery line. Marks & Spencer launched this range specifically to prove that clean bread can be made at scale. No E-numbers, no emulsifiers, no preservatives, just flour, water, salt, yeast, a tiny amount of rapeseed oil, and fermented wheat flour. That's it. The ingredient list looks like what bread should be. There was actually a bit of controversy when the Real Bread campaign complained to Trading Standards about how M&S was counting ingredients on the label. They were listing multi-flour as one ingredient when it technically contained several types of flour. Trading Standards agreed, and M&S had to change the labeling. But here's the important part. The actual bread itself is clean. The product is genuinely made without the industrial additives we've been discussing. The labeling dispute doesn't change the fact that M&S proved it's completely possible for a major supermarket chain to produce simple, additive-free bread. If they can do it, every other supermarket could do it too. They just choose not to because industrial bread is cheaper and more profitable. Second, M&S Collection Crafted White Sourdough from their bakery section. This is M&S's premium sourdough line, and unlike most supermarket sourdoughs, it's the real thing. The ingredient list is short and clean. Wheat flour, water, rye flour, sea salt, and a sourdough culture. No commercial yeast, no vinegar to fake the tang. No preservatives propping it up. It's properly fermented using traditional methods, which means you actually get the digestive benefits that real sourdough provides. The fermentation breaks down gluten and creates beneficial acids that make the bread easier to digest and better for gut health. This is what sourdough is supposed to be. The fact that it exists proves that all those sour faux products we discussed earlier are pure choice. There's no technical reason supermarkets can't make real sourdough. They just don't want to because the traditional method takes longer and costs more. M&S decided to do it properly with this line, and the result is genuinely good bread. Third, Waitrose No. 1 sourdough range from their bakery section. Remember earlier when we tore apart Waitrose Brace's White Bloomer for being fake sourdough with less than 2% actual sourdough and a load of preservatives? This is the contrast. Their No. 1 premium range is proper sourdough made right. Flour, water, salt, and sourdough starter. No added yeast. No chemical shortcuts. This proves that even within the same supermarket, there are completely different standards depending on which product line you're looking at. Waitrose knows how to make real sourdough. They do it for their premium No. 1 range, but they also sell that Brace's Bloomer with the sourdough marketing angle that's basically industrial bread. It's a deliberate choice. They make real sourdough for customers who know what to look for and will pay the premium price. Then they make fake sourdough for customers who just see the word on the label and assume they're getting something healthy. If you're going to buy Waitrose bakery bread, this is the range to stick with. It's proof that they can do it right when they want to. Fourth, Morrison's the best white sourdough bloomer, 400 grams from their bakery section. This one surprised a lot of people when it launched, because Morrison's isn't typically seen as the premium quality supermarket. But their The Best range actually delivers real sourdough at a more accessible price point than M&S or Waitrose. The ingredients are wheat flour, water, salt and malted barley flour. No emulsifiers, no preservatives, no added gluten. It's simple, clean and properly made. This proves that even mid-range supermarkets can produce legitimate bread when they choose to. The problem isn't that good bread is impossible to make at supermarket scale. The problem is that industrial bread is cheaper and most customers don't know the difference. Morrison's also operates those loaf tanning salons we discussed earlier for their standard in-store bakery range. But they also make this properly fermented sourdough for their premium line. Same supermarket, same bakery sections, completely different standards. It shows that when customers demand better and are willing to pay for it, supermarkets will provide it. Fifth, Sainsbury's stone-baked ciabatta rolls from their bakery section. These ciabatta rolls are a genuinely clean product in a sea of industrial bread. The ingredient list shows wheat flour, water, olive oil at 3%, fermented wheat flour, malted wheat flour, salt, and yeast. No palm oil, no emulsifiers, no preservatives, no treatment agents. Ciabatta is supposed to be simple Italian bread made with good flour, water, olive oil, and thyme. That's exactly what this is. The fermented wheat flour is a traditional ingredient that adds flavor and helps with texture without relying on chemical additives. Compare this to Sainsbury's regular bakery white bloomer that we discussed earlier with its added gluten and allergen warnings. Same supermarket, same bakery sections, but these ciabatta rolls are made to a completely different standard. They're proof that Sainsbury's knows how to make clean bread when they want to. The question is why they don't apply the same standards across their entire bakery range. Sixth, Jason's sourdough, available in all varieties and sold in the bakery sections of Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, Morrison's and Ocado. This is the gold standard. This is what real bread looks like. Jason's has been making sourdough since 1906. It's now run by fourth-generation master baker Jason Geary, and they've never compromised on their methods. The ingredient list for their sourdough is wheat flour, water, rye flour, salt, and fermented wheat flour. That's it. 4 ingredients, no commercial yeast, no oils, no additives whatsoever. Every loaf is fermented for a full 24 hours using their own sourdough culture that they've been maintaining and feeding for decades. This is traditional bread making exactly as it should be done. The fermentation develops proper flavor, creates the characteristic sourdough tang naturally without any vinegar tricks, breaks down gluten for better digestibility, and produces all the beneficial acids and bacteria that make real sourdough a genuinely healthy option. Jason's proves that proper bread can be distributed through mainstream supermarkets. You don't need to go to an artisan bakery or farmer's market. You can find real bread in regular shops if you know what to look for. The fact that Jason's exists and thrives shows that there's absolutely no excuse for all those industrial loaves wrapped in fresh-baked marketing. If a family business can make proper sourdough and get it into major supermarkets, the supermarkets themselves could do it too. They just choose not to because industrial shortcuts are more profitable. The British public has been sold a story about fresh bakery bread for decades, while the reality has been frozen factory dough, hidden additives and legal loopholes that let supermarkets avoid telling you what's actually in these products. Parents are feeding these industrial loaves to their children every single day, trusting the fresh bakery marketing, not realizing they're giving them preservatives linked to behavior issues and emulsifiers flagged in research studies. People with digestive problems are buying fake sourdough thinking it'll help when it delivers none of the benefits of real fermentation. Families are paying premium prices for heritage-branded products that have nothing to do with traditional baking. But change only happens when enough people demand it. So here's what I need you to do. Hit that hype button right now if this video opened your eyes to what's really going on with supermarket bakery bread. Drop a comment and tell me what food we should investigate next, because I'm going to keep making videos like this until the industry has no choice but to clean up their act. Subscribe if you want to be part of holding these corporations accountable, and share this with anyone who shops at these supermarkets. Send it to your family group chat, post it on your social media. The more people who know, the harder it becomes for them to keep playing these games. Because right now, they're counting on your ignorance. They're counting on you not reading ingredient lists, not asking questions, not demanding better. Every person who watches this and changes what they buy is a small victory against an industry that's been deceiving us for decades. Until next time, read those ingredients, demand transparency, and protect your plate.